Unlike other erstwhile criminal abortionists like Benjamin Munson, Jesse Ketchum, and Mylan Vuch, former criminal abortionist Curtis Boyd didn't just throw caution to the winds and play Russian roulette with his patients' lives once legalization took the immediate chances of prison off the table. He really did seem to do everything in his power to perform Vanessa's abortion safely and to provide adequate care when she suffered complications. Unfortunately, that care wasn't enough. This is Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and today is January 22nd. Dr. Curtis Wayne Boyd is a proud founding member of the National Abortion Federation, and at least in the beginning of his safe and legal career, he really seemed to be trying to live up to the standards that they say they live up to. 22-year-old Vanessa seems to have been a case of just all surgery having risks. She went with her husband to Curtis Boyd's Fairmount Center Clinic in Dallas on January 22nd of 1980 for an abortion when she was about 16 weeks pregnant. Now, during the procedure, Vanessa suffered some vaginal punctures, which are, the sorts of complications to be expected in this abortion. However, before Boyd could remove the placenta, Vanessa went into a grand mal seizure and then into cardiac arrest. Now, to the credit of Boyd and his staff, they did have an emergency plan and they did follow it. They were able to successfully resuscitate her, and they called EMS right away and got Vanessa transferred to a hospital. During exploratory surgery at the hospital, during which Vanessa was given 24 units of blood, Vanessa died. Now, an autopsy revealed that her uncontrolled bleeding had been caused by an amniotic fluid embolism, which is amniotic fluid getting into her bloodstream, which triggered a clotting disorder called disseminated intravascular coagulopathy, or DIC. Now, there are different kinds of DIC, but basically the clotting factors in the blood get all out of whack, and in some cases, the patient simply can't stop bleeding. Now, even though Boyd and his staff had performed CPR properly, Vanessa suffered a mild laceration to her liver. Again, this isn't something I can fault them for. Such liver lacerations can happen even in properly performed CPR. However, nobody knew to look for catastrophic bleeding from a liver laceration, and it wasn't until after autopsy that they discovered where she was losing blood and that nothing they were doing could have saved her life. Now, since second trimester dismemberment abortions were new at the time, there really wasn't a whole lot of data collected on the complications at that point. But Boyd did report the death to the National Abortion Federation as a member, and reported it to the Centers for Disease Control, and he wrote a medical journal article about the death. He did not give any identifying information about the patient. It just was pretty obvious that unless he had more than one dead patient, the one he was talking about was Vanessa. But he did publish his findings so that he could warn his fellow doctors about this possible risk so that they might be able to prevent the deaths of other patients. However, it seems like eventually Boyd's quality of care has deteriorated gradually over the years. His late-term abortion clinic in New Mexico, which of course he owned it, so he was overseeing it, was accused of providing substandard care that resulted in the death of an abortion patient named Keisha in 2017. So, for those of you who feel like I'm just picking on abortion doctors and blaming them for situations where all surgery has risks, that's not the case. In this case, like I said, if you're willing to grant that he meant well in doing the abortion in the first place, I can't fault him. Unfortunately for Vanessa, it was just one of those things.